All right, so good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're joining from. Wow, this is beginning to feel like family. So I now want to spend every Saturday with you now. For those joining us for the first time, Essinova is an interdisciplinary creativity academy applying art and mind to human development, leadership, and innovation. Artful in Quarantine is a special purpose program developed by a group of us Artful Leadership faculty as our way to contribute in these special times. 2 weeks ago, we savored our breath, our 5 senses, to connect with their healing and creative power. We explored direct experience of life, and I preached on restoring the balance between the yin and the yang energy for both our own as well as the planetary health. Last Saturday, we tasted the flavors of life, touched its textures, and certainly immersed in its rhythms and melodies through music, thanks to Frank and Reiko's skillful orchestration. The music stirred our hearts, shifted our perspectives, and connected all of us in its vibration. Today, we sharpen our sight and vision, both to see the world with more insights and also to sense our own emerging future with more clarity. And leading us on this visual expedition is Linda Naiman, creativity coach, corporate alchemist, and art-based learning expert. So have your eyes wide open, get your pencil and colors ready, and here comes Linda.
Thanks so much. Welcome, everybody. It's a thrill to be here. And yeah, I want to start off by saying that, particularly with us all being affected by the pandemic, and most of us, I think, are in seclusion, that we are definitely on a hero's journey right now. And if you could show the slide, Gina, of the hero's journey, just to give some context for the experience we're going to have with art. And that is, well, first of all, we are all on a hero's journey. We have left the known world, and we are, I'm sure you can agree, experiencing destabilizing events and really going down what could be the abyss. And we haven't reached the bottom of the abyss yet. But in the hero's journey, in all the myths, particularly the myths that Joseph Campbell has talked about, the hero leaves the known world. The hero answers, it hears the call. We hear the call to step forward into an adventure. And all is great in that first moment, but once we answer the call, we go into the abyss. And so we experience all kinds of trials and tribulations. And then we get to the bottom where in some myths, there's a fire-breathing dragon. And the hero has to slay the dragon. And as Campbell says, the dragon represents the ego. And the dragon is protecting the gold inside. And he doesn't even need the gold. And so the hero slays the dragon, gets the gold, and that gold really is about illumination, and it's about the transforming idea. And in order to do that, usually the hero needs guides and allies to help. And on the way to this transformation, it feels like you're going to die. And I think for many of us, we are experiencing some kind of death in ourselves, in the world that we're leaving behind. We don't know what's happening next. We don't know. And so we are in this place of unknown. And but there will be some kind of transformation. And in the hero's journey, we take that transforming idea and then we go up the other side, and we learn to put that idea into practice, to integrate it and bring it back into the world, to share with the world. We share our gifts and talents with the world, and we create a new world. So, so that's where we are individually and as a collective. And in the workshop today, I want to share with you some of the ways to use art to help you on your journey. And we'll explore art by masters, and we'll also participate in image making. And, but first I want to share a little bit about my personal journey. So I've been on this journey going into the abyss many times. And I think anytime you are doing something creative, you are leaving the known world and you're going into the unknown. So this journey when it's a journey of creativity, it can be terrifying, but also it can be exciting and exhilarating, and it can be pleasurable. It all depends on what our attitude is and whether we're willing to take a deep dive into the unknown and into our inner world and into the imagination. And so, so I've been an artist. I've been an artist all my life. I mean, since I was 2, since I took a ballpoint pen and marked up a doll's face when I was a child, and I just thrilled at the tactile quality of that experience. And I was always encouraged to be an artist. And, but at some point I studied art at California College of the Arts, and I became a graphic designer. So I made a living for years as a designer and illustrator, won a lot of awards at one point, and then I was creatively blocked. Uh-oh. And I realized in all that time, I never learned how to be creative. Nobody taught me the creative process. And I got interested in that when I was creatively blocked. And actually one of the first books I read on the subject was The Artist's Way. And that inspired that experience of going through a 12-week journey to uncover blocks and liberate my creativity, inspired me to do this work in the world and to liberate creativity in other people. And then it became my mission to make life and work a work of art. And because I already had been working with business, I developed a body of work, and I started pioneering arts-based learning for business, to use art as a catalyst to awaken the imagination and creativity, and to help business learn principles and practices that come from the arts. So over the years, I have developed this body of work. I've traveled the world, and I've worked with a number of Fortune 500 companies, nonprofits, public sector organizations, and entrepreneurs. And one of the highlights, oh, and next slide, please, Gina. One of the highlights of my adventures in arts-based learning took place in Slovenia. I was invited by Miha Pagachnik, who's a cultural ambassador in Slovenia, or for Slovenia, and he invited me to this arts and business conference. And he is a concert violinist, and he teaches people to listen deeply through taking them through an experience of a sonata phrase by phrase. And what he does is he also helps in the listening by interpreting the music as a hero's journey. And particularly he will talk about Parsifal and the Grail and living in the question, and taking us through an experience of the music, of answering the call. And so answering the call, and then taking that dive down into the abyss, into death, into the death of the ego, and into renewal. So he asked me to paint this. He was performing Beethoven's Violin Concerto in D major, and he asked me to paint the music as it was being performed. So this is my painting. So I was standing up on the marble steps of the altar to the Virgin Mary in this Baroque church in Slovenia near the Italian border. And I was standing amongst the performers, and there were 200 people in the audience, and national Slovenian television. And I wasn't allowed to paint on a flat surface and then just show my painting later. I had to show my work as it was evolving, which was a terrifying experience. So I went through my whole hero's journey right then and there. And so if you look at the painting, then you can see on the top left, that's the beginning of the call. And then as you descend down into that red area and the yellow in the middle, that's where the transformation takes place. And then as you go up on the right side, then that depicts the new life. And if you listen to Beethoven's Violin Concerto in D major, you can follow along. You can see how the music, how that evolves. And so that was an amazing experience of really deep listening and looking. And it's like using multiple senses. So so painting and using art. So I work with people and organizations to listen and to look and to create these experiences where you're using your multiple senses to be in the moment and to sense what's emerging. And that's what we're going to be exploring today, seeing, sensing, and listening together to explore what is emerging. Okay, so the big question is, why art? Why art at this moment? Next slide. And wow, I love this from Austin and Devin. Whenever you have no blueprint to tell you in detail what to do, you must work artfully. Is that not true? Next slide. And so, we're living in times of uncertainty, but these are also times of new possibilities. And it takes creativity, it takes imagination, it takes sensing. And I think it's useful to look at this diagram of the process of creativity. And I created this image. I was inspired by the teachings of Patanjali, and who was one of the great teachers of yoga over 2,000 years ago. And he said, he says that there's three forces that rule the world. There's the power of creating, the power to sustain, and the power to destroy. And we were always going in cycles. And then the greatest power is the power of love. That is the power that holds it all together. And all of this could be called Leela, which is the Sanskrit word for God's play. So what is God's play? It's creating the universe. And then William Bridges, who did a lot of work on what did he do work on? Transitions. Yes, change and transitions. So he's talked about the zone of transformation, which is between the ending of something and the beginning of something. So we are kind of in that zone, I would say. And so this is fertile ground for creativity. And I think it's also a time to pause, to go within. I think a lot of us have felt like, oh, just calm down, slow down, go within, take time for contemplation, for doing quiet things, for creating art, for writing, and to to prepare for what is coming, and to also start to create, to set an intention for creating what we would like to come into being. So this is fertile ground, and it's a time of great creativity, but we don't necessarily see what is going on, because just like a seed germinates beneath the earth, the transition and the transformation is occurring in the invisible layers. And as I think it was Gina yesterday, were you saying this is the liminal space, or was it you, Bebe?
Yes,
We're both.
yeah, it's the space between the two worlds, essentially.
Yes.
It's called the liminal, which is the threshold of
Yes.
the world that's coming.
Yeah.
And it may feel like it's the end of the old world, which it is. And it's very anticipatory because you don't exactly know, but there's always another space beyond it. And hopefully we'll embrace it with art.
Yes.
It's also the rites of passage towards the next, towards the
yes. And I feel that's the space we're in these days. And so I find it really interesting that, you know, there are leaders who have and are embracing art. And so here we have a picture of Winston Churchill. And so when he was leading England during the Second World War, what did he do on the weekends? He'd go to his country place and he would paint. Isn't that amazing? And the thing is, great leaders take time for reflection and contemplation. We have to get out of our reptilian brain, that part of our brain that operates in by either fleeing or fighting or freezing. If we're in that mode of thinking, then we are going to have reptilian thoughts, lower order thoughts. So painting and other forms of contemplation are a way to relax and calm down. And this allows our higher order thinking and sensing to take place. So here's another example from, I just encountered Mauro, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. Mauro
Porcini.
Thank you, Gina. Mauro Porcini, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Design Officer at Pepsi-Cola. And he's been sharing a lot on LinkedIn. So I just loved what he says here. And I commented on it and I said, I'm going to quote you in my next workshop. I didn't even ask for permission. And he gave me a like. So, okay, good. So there he is taking time out at home. He's not watching Netflix. He's sitting by the fire and he's drawing. And he says, making art in a form, I guess in one form or another, unites us all without any boundary of time and space. Making art is an escape from time and from space. In a dimension far away, without time and space, we meet all together through our art. It's the space of our fantasy. It's the time of our creativity. It's the dimension of our imagination. Now, yesterday, and tomorrow, the mantra of a pencil going back and forth on a piece of paper is our meditation. The alchemy, I love that. The alchemy of charcoal generating shapes and emotions is our everyday miracle. Making art is generous. It's selfless. It doesn't expect anything in return. It finds its reason to just be in itself. And yet the return is so deep and profound. It's joy, it's warmth, it's passion, it's life. It's a smile on the face of a child, that child that is inside each of you. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing that a corporate VP expresses himself publicly like that. So that gives me hope. Okay, so there is another framework that is useful and that will be guiding us today. And that is this is the beginning of Theory U. And basically this, you can see the movement of the hero's journey here, and that U shape, the U of transformation. And Brian Arthur, who is an economist and he worked at Xerox PARC as an economist, and he's, I believe, one of the founders of the Santa Fe Institute. And he says, all true innovation in science, business, and society is based on inner knowing, not on downloading. And he studied Buddhism. And so that influences his work as a leader. And when he was interviewed by Otto Scharmer on how to thrive, what does it take to thrive as a leader in the 21st century? He said that you need to observe, pause, and reflect. Allow your inner knowing to emerge, then act in an instant. So to give an example of what I was just talking about, I'll share a story with you. There was an emperor who had a favorite horse, and he asked his artist to paint a picture of his horse. And the artist said, well, may I borrow your horse so I can observe him? And the emperor lent him his horse. And some months later, no art. So the emperor went to the artist and said, where's my art? And the artist hadn't done anything, but he pulled out his brush and in a few moments painted this magnificent picture of his horse that captured the spirit and the essence of the horse. So this is an example of observing, taking time to observe, to reflect, and then acting in an instant, which I like to tell my corporate clients is the opposite of Nike, where you just do it and you act quickly and then you take a long time to clean up your mess. So business leaders sometimes feel frustrated because they want to just act right away. But really, if you take time for reflection and contemplation and questioning and all of that, then once you come up with your transforming idea and you test it, you will save a lot of time in the long run, even though it seems like it's slow at first. Okay, so next slide. So this leads us to Theory U. And so this is the work that Otto Scharmer from MIT has developed over the years, along with his colleagues, Peter Senge and Jaworski. I actually met Otto Scharmer at one of the arts and business conferences in Slovenia when he was first developing this. And when he showed all us arts and business people this model, we all went crazy, because this is a model for creativity. And so he says there's basically two ways we learn. And we learn, one, by downloading and responding to past patterns, past experiences. And the other way is to release the past patterns, to tune in, and to learn from the future as it emerges. So as you see on the left, we can interrupt our past patterns by suspending how we usually see things, by stopping the voice of judgment, by releasing the voice of cynicism, by letting go of the voice of fear. So as you see, it's like the hero's journey again. So So what we do is, as we let go, we redirect, and we open our mind, we open our hearts, we open our wills for fresh seeing, for sensing, for listening. And we come to the bottom of the U, which is the connection to source, to the connection to our higher self. And from this place of being present and sensing, which Sharma calls presencing, we are opening ourselves to the field that is around us, to the field of our higher selves, and sensing what is coming, what is the world asking of us, what is my highest self, what is emerging, what is the emerging story, and tapping into that transforming idea. And then as we move up the right, then we crystallize that idea, prototype it, test it out, and then embody it. So far, are there any questions about this before I proceed? Any quick questions?
If I could just make a quick comment.
Yes.
This actually, we're talking about innovation, but there's actually a lot that we can learn from ancient cultures. This is the, if I could maybe actually show a quick, let's see. So it's two different kind of historical or two different views of history. I saw this a few months ago last year, and thought this really resonated. So the Western or modern view has been very kind of, it's all about progress. It's all about going forward, one way, linear. Whereas the non-Western or more ancient view or Aboriginal has been seeing life as a cycle. So there's always the beginning, the middle, and the death, which is the rebirth, the transformation. And they have a lot more tools to help people through this ritual, because it's just being taken for granted that life is a cycle. There's always the beginning, the middle, and the end, restarting again. So we don't freak out when the some kind of a death occurs. And this prepares us for a better new beginning. So I thought I would just echo what you're saying. Kind of this is maps to the hero's journey in that cyclical view, but then it spirals upward rather than just one way going straight forward. So just thought I would make that quick comment. Great.
Thanks, baby. Okay, so yeah, so just to say that there's a lot going on here, and I'm just scratching the surface. So you could go to the Presencing Institute to read more. I just wanted to say that this represents, in a way, a hero's journey. It represents a creative process for an individual. It also applies to leadership and transformation in groups, societies. And Otto Scharmer is now using this to explain the journey of the pandemic. And he's using this to work with governments to transform society and even capitalism and ecology, and climate change. So it's very complex. And but there are processes here to work in groups as well, so that we see together, we sense together, we let go together, we presence together. And so we're going to do a little bit of that now, focusing on seeing and sensing. So next slide, please. And I do in my work like to emphasize the power of observation, because it just seems to be ignored in our world. We tend to focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, and yet we live in a visual world. And so we need to be visually literate. And as Michelle Dean says, paying attention is the only thing that guarantees insight. And so, quite often we're looking at things but not really seeing it, or vice versa. Next slide, please. So here's some, so we're going to start moving into looking at visual art. And I like this slide from Giorgio, or I like the work of Giorgio Morandi. And let's see, well, it says, one can travel the world and see nothing. Isn't that true? To achieve understanding, it is necessary not to see many things, but to look hard at what you do see. So during the Second World War, he was in isolation. He was in lockdown. And he spent most of his career drawing or painting still life from his apartment. And he became a master at observing and creating these simple objects. Next slide. So if you can see, learn how to look. If you can look, learn how to observe. And can somebody tell me what is going on in this picture? If you can unmute everybody, please. Gina.
No one's looking at the picture.
Yeah, no one's looking at the picture. And do you know where this picture is taking place?
Uffizi.
Yes, you guys are so smart. Yes. So, yeah, wherever I travel all over the world, and wherever I go, I see people with their noses in their devices. If your nose is always in your device, you're not going to be seeing the world around you, and you're missing opportunities for inspiration and creativity and noticing and discovering. So I'm on a campaign to get people get their noses out of their devices. Okay, next slide.
As in the next page.
So that's me. I am standing in front of this great masterpiece by Botticelli. And all these people that you saw in the previous slide, they're in front of me taking pictures of that painting. They don't even see me. Can we go back again?
Okay.
See, they don't see me at all. And I was standing, okay, back to me. I was standing in front of them and I was really embarrassed. No, they're missing the moment. They're missing the moment. And so that's just an illustration of, we're not really looking. Okay, next slide. So now I'm going to give you guys a test. And I want you to, the invitation is to look at this painting by Magritte for 1 minute. Notice as much as you can. And then I'm going to put you in a breakout room. And you are going to share with people in your breakout room how many things you got. So you can, when you're in the breakout room, you can share in the chat room with each other and write what you see here. Okay? So I think I've already just been talking for a minute, but I'll give you 1 minute or another, 1 minute of silence just to look. It also helps to look at what's not there, or to notice what is not there. Okay. So Gina, if you can put everybody into their breakout room.
Anyone want to share?
Yeah, I can go first if that is fine.
Sure.
So what we discussed as a team is there is a visual, like we don't see any light or source of light. We saw that there is a clock which is like 12:45. The mirror is there, but there is no reflection. And the steam engine coming from the fireplace. The steam is going backwards, so there is some presence of wind. But what we kind of got into the deeper level, we thought that this is something when the steam engines were innovated or invented, that's the moment painter wants to capture. So this is like past is little steady life and silent. We are more connected into the world. And when the steam engine comes, everything has changed and we are in the fast-paced world. So this is kind of transitioning the artist wants to present. And I just added a little bit of thread that when we go to the nature, back to the country life, then we are connected to the divine. But due to the innovation, we are on the fast track, and then we lost that connection somehow. And thanks to Bebe for organizing this three-step workshop, because this is bringing us back to the real core of our hearts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shuri. Thanks, Shuri.
Thanks.
I could
Anybody
share.
else like to share?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So we have a disagreement on number 8. I thought, like, in terms of the wheels, I think there's 5.5 because the back one you only see part of it. But our team got all of these plus the bonus points. I think it's.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You're amazing.
It was, yeah. For me, I reverse engineered my life and art, so I learned backwards, and so I've learned how to pay extraordinary attention to those details. And I think, you know, our breakout team was amazing because I think we all connected in terms of how we see differently.
So
Yeah.
Lisa, can we have another class with you next week?
Always. No, yeah, but
That's
it was
amazing.
I think we can all do with some attention, teaching, learning, whatever it makes.
It's about being present and really getting lost in, you know, not considering, you know, what you think you have to see, but what's really there.
Yes. Yes, exactly. In fact, this is why they have taught art appreciation courses at Yale. Started at these kind arts-based learning using paintings, visual art, began at Yale, I believe, and it started in the dermatology department because they noticed when people learned how to really look at paintings and really be able to see, like you did, Lisa, see all the details, they were better at diagnosing dermatology problems. And so then it expanded to other medical schools. And also Amy Herman. This exercise comes from Amy Herman's book, Visual Intelligence, which is a great book, by the way.
Yeah.
And she also has been teaching detectives how to observe. And so one detective said, you know, now when I go to a crime scene, I don't make a snap judgment. I really take time to look around. And so it's about really being able to observe. And also in the beginning, just say what you see. Don't make up a story about it. Just say what you see. But later in visual art, then you know, a process is, okay, what do you see? How does it make you feel? And what does it make you think about? So in that, and it's really helpful to look together. You see more when you look together. It's actually quite hard work to observe. And so I know one of my friends, Linda, has joined us here. Sorry to embarrass you, Linda, but we have a lot of fun going to art galleries together, and we will spend a lot of time looking, and we both see the different things, and then we have different interpretations. So we could spend an hour in front of a painting, and You know, it actually takes a lot of energy to look, to observe. And it really helps to see together, because you see, and then you hear different perspectives. And so art is an invitation to have a conversation. That's one of the functions of art. So any other comments about this?
I just wanted to say that when I look at a piece of art, I am not just stimulated by the intellect and the linear kind of photo. What evokes in me is my heart completely opens, and I feel all those objects that are in that piece. So I'm imagining the wood, I'm imagining the marble, and I'm imagining why the artist would put a steam train, you know, in the middle of a fireplace, and what is the deeper metaphysical meaning of that in the artist's perception, but also in my own life, because I think art's for everybody. So that's what happens for me. I don't just look at the detail of what's in the art, but something bigger happens when I look at a piece of art. That's just my view.
Yeah. Thank you, Janet. And that, you know, that's another great way to experience art. Very important. And Gina, the next slide, please. So further to what you were saying, Janet, yeah, let's take another look at this painting. And now maybe you all see a little bit more in this and feel a little bit more now that you have spent time observing it. And so the title of this painting is called Ongoing Time Stabbed by a Dagger by René Magritte, 1938, otherwise known as Time Transfixed. So visually, the image is of a still, unchanging room being stabbed through by the absurdity of having a locomotive appearing from the fireplace. And one of the ideas, so this is, he was influenced by surrealism, which was a movement in Europe that explored the psychological and subconscious, the bringing the dream world into reality in order to expose a psychological truth. So the juxtaposition of things that do not belong together is used to engage the interest of and excite a response from the audience. So it is about unveiling the unseen. So that I imagine that evokes a different or another kind of response now that you know what the title is. Ongoing time stabbed by a dagger.
And Lisa, you were right about the 5.5 wheels.
I would have accepted if I was wrong. No worry.
You made me curious, that's all.
That's good.
I was curious about this image, and I'd like to see what you think, Linda Naiman, because the second candlestick is not reflected in the mirror. Right. And it would seem to me logically that it would be reflected and that you would see it. So it seems almost like a conscious decision that that reflection was left off. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think it was conscious.
Could it just be the angle though?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't think
like the person is standing on the left.
No, the measurements don't line up.
No?
No, because it would still be reflected in the mirror, regardless of where the person's standing, the mirror would be reflecting it.
Oh, I see.
Like you could see it almost.
But could you see it though? That's the question.
But that's the possibility that it might be behind the watch or the clock. If the angle is on little bit deeper side, then that's a possibility. The clock is blocking that image. That's a possibility.
It would need to be over. further.
Okay.
We should take the rulers out.
This goes back to Linda's other comment about when you look, you should just observe and not make up a story. But I'm always making up a story.
Yeah. Well, no,
That's
like the first step is just to observe and note what you observe, what is there. Then later then you can interpret and make up a story for sure, because we're all entitled to our interpretations. But if we're learning to just use art as a tool to develop our ability to observe, and we're policemen, or we're innovators, or we're doctors, then this is a scientific approach in a way. It's like, just say what you see, like what's not there. And then art is an invitation to have a conversation. So then the art is there. It's to evoke feelings, to evoke emotion, and art tells a story. So then we can expand from what we see, and then we can share our responses.
So
Okay.
I can
Yes.
add to this candle stand in the current context. So the left candle stand is the physical object. That's where you see the image. The right one might be the VR. It's just the image. So you cannot see any reflection or image in the mirror. It's the virtual image, looks like real. So it's kind of extends to the illusion. So the real life is not what we see. There is something else beyond it. So that's how I would put it.
Nice. Who knew there would be so much to say about this painting?
Also, just notice that on the fireplace, like the more I'm staring at the white, I'm starting to see these patterns on it.
Yeah.
That, are you guys seeing that? Or is it just my
like marble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes.
It's like the sky when you look up at night, initially it looks black. And then
Yes.
the more and more you look, the stars just start popping out. It's that same feeling.
Yeah. So the artist that reminds me of the artist. What is his name? Morandi. I think it was him who said, if you look at anything for 10 minutes, no matter what, it becomes interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like it's so enjoyable to look at something together as we are. It just becomes richer and richer as we keep looking and observing and commenting and sharing. But we have to move on to the next image. Okay with you? Okay, so in this one, what do you see? Just call out what you see. No interpretations, just what is it that you see?
Veggies.
What?
Veggies.
Oh, veggies. Yes.
Plants. Potted plants.
Yes.
Onions.
Yes.
A bowl.
Yes. Okay.
Turnips or carrots?
Hazelnuts.
Okay, great. Okay, next slide, please.
Light reflection.
Light.
Okay, now what do you see?
Face.
Scarecrow.
Yes.
Face.
Isn't that amazing? Did you ever guess there'd be a face in the image the other way?
I don't see a face.
You don't see a face?
Let's go back to the prior.
Look at
the cheekbones.
Yeah, the onion is the cheekbone. I don't know what those are.
They're
Oranges
hazelnuts.
or lips.
Okay.
Hazelnuts.
Yeah, I see it now. I see it
now.
I think he has a beard, very disheveled beard.
Yes.
He's in quarantine. Hasn't seen the barber in a while.
It's a pretty weird face.
It is. So this guy was known for making vegetable faces, fruit and vegetable faces. And okay, so what's the lesson here?
It depends where you look.
Yes. And
How you look.
yeah.
You can look at it from different angles.
Yes. And that
Nothing
changes our
what it
perspective.
is. Yeah.
So there's a life lesson here, and that is, you know, when we receive information, when we hear a story, when we listen to the news, whatever's going on, then we can listen to each other about each other's perspectives, to learn about, oh, maybe my perspective, maybe there's other perspectives that are equally as valid as mine. That's something that we can embrace, especially in times of transition. Yes.
I will say the vegetables have lives too, and human beings, they're pretty much like human beings. So we should treat them with courtesy and respect.
Oh,
Oh.
That's very enlightened. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what do you see here?
Oh, too many things.
This down.
What are the three main images here?
Faces.
Yes. And what do you notice about these faces?
Nature is involved.
Yes.
Looks. There are some strange lookings. And also some crying silhouettes, I think, inside of them.
Yes.
See the little boy observing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, here's the interesting thing about this painting, which is by Salvador Dali. The painting is called Old Age, Adolescence, and Infancy, the three ages, done in 1940. And if you look carefully at these three faces, they're actually holes in a wall. You see there's a big wall, and then there's holes. And then there's a landscape in the background behind the holes. And the landscape in the background is what is creating the faces, the images of the faces. And so there's an interplay here between the subject and the object, the figure and the ground. And I don't know if who is familiar with Marshall McLuhan, but he was famous for saying the media is the message. And I didn't ever really understand what he was talking about until I read an essay about his work. And in the essay, the writer talked about the media is the ground. And the media is invisible because we are surrounded by the ground. The ground is everywhere. The background is everywhere. So it's invisible and we don't really notice it unless we shift our attention from the subject to the object. And so this is a technique that artists use, not to mention innovators and scientists, is to like look at what's going on in the background, because the background is informing the foreground. And we could say, well, that's certainly happening in life right now. And what's in the background for everybody right now is the coronavirus. And so what is informing us? And so this is another way to look. It's to notice the figure and the ground. And that takes us to the next image. Okay, so this is not really art, but okay, if you already know, this is a quiz. If you already know this, don't say anything. If you don't know it, then I invite you to find the hidden tiger.
It's written on his, it's the black marks on the skin.
Who said that?
I did, Anu.
Anu. And did you know that before, Anu?
No, I didn't. I just saw it.
You are brilliant. You're smarter than all of us. You are smarter than me, Gina, Bebe.
Oh, I knew that.
Okay, what class are you teaching, Anu, now?
No, it just jumped out at me. It just jumped out at me. It was weird.
You are A++ observer. Okay, so does everybody else see this? The hidden tiger?
Yeah,
It's written in stripes. Okay, so what's the lesson here?
Look at the details.
Yes.
Inside of the picture.
That you can manipulate images with Photoshop.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So for the less intelligent people here, what are we looking at that we missed?
Okay, look at the stripes. Can you use your pointer, Gina?
I can't, actually. I tried.
Oh.
It doesn't seem.
Okay. Well, look very carefully at the stripes, starting from the neck, and you'll see a T. Then you see an H. Then you see an E. Then you see H-I-D-D-E-N.
The hidden tiger. See that?
Right.
T-H-E. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
It's very tricky. And so,
I saw another one.
Yes? You saw another tiger?
Yeah.
Where?
A face of eyes of a tiger and the face in the greenery. Here. It could be also that. Yes, here. Yeah.
What?
Okay. I don't see it.
I see the eyes, but I don't think it's a tiger. That's all.
Okay, there's a lesson here, because we could be looking for something, but have in our perception that thing we're looking for is a certain way.
Mm.
And if we're stuck in it being a certain way, we're not going to find it.
Yeah.
Our mind has to be open rather than closed.
Yeah, and we have to be open to it being in another form other than what we thought it was. Because the hidden tiger is actually verbal in this. I mean, just to be literal about it. The answer was not in the visual, it was in the verbal.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it real stripes or somebody has painted it like this?
No, I'm sure.
I don't think the
I
tigers
can't
will
imagine.
I don't think the tigers will think it.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a bit of a trick too. Like, normally we see this picture as being what?
Tidal wave.
A tidal wave.
Tsunami.
Yeah. And what about the tsunami? How does it make you feel?
It's overwhelming a couple of boats, so frightened, I guess.
Yes.
In awe of the majesty of nature.
Yes. True. So
Okay.
I have to admit that, I've seen this picture over the years, and I've thought of it as a pretty picture. It wasn't until I was diving into this and I was actually, for part of this presentation, I was researching some of the images that they use at Yale in teaching people how to observe through art. And this is one of the images they show. And so then I realized, oh my gosh, this is threatening. And I had never noticed before. Maybe that's why I'm teaching this stuff, because, they say you teach what you need to learn. And so
There's a test at the end, Linda.
Yeah, we'll see if I can get up there with Anu.
I think I'm going to have Anu and Lisa put it together.
No, but Linda, I think that the colors are very soothing. So it
They
gives you a
are.
sense of relaxation in a time of challenge.
Yes. And so, yeah, so here's the commentary from Yale that, okay, so this was painted by, or it was actually a print, one of many, from Katsushika Hakusai. Reiko, did I pronounce it correctly? Reiko's on mute.
Very close, very close.
Okay, can you pronounce it correctly, please?
Hakusai wave, yeah.
Hey, it's beauty and
Okay.
disaster at the same time.
And and it was painted or created in 1831. So the commentary is, at first glance, the snow-capped Mount Fuji looks calm in the background, far from the boats and towering waves. But the mountain is slightly obscured by a boat whose sharp sickle-like tip threatens to lob off Mount Fuji's peak. And recent scholarship suggests that this print has political implications. Mount Fuji, a symbol of Japan, is menaced by boats and overpowering waves, both of which may imply a fear of foreign powers encroaching on Japanese shores. Indeed, in 1853, roughly 20 years after this print was made, the American Commodore Matthew Perry led a United States Navy fleet, and they attacked Tokyo Harbor and forcibly opened Japan to trade. Whoa. So art can be prescient. That's another reason to look at art, because artists, to paraphrase Marshall McLuhan, are the radar of the future. Artists will unconsciously or consciously reflect back to society what they are experiencing. And so when we learn to observe art, we can also decode. So we can decode by observing what we see, sensing, noticing what we're feeling, and using the art as a catalyst to activate our imagination, to think about what if, what else, or what this might be, what the meaning might be. Okay. Yes.
I can connect with this picture, which it's 1830, but when the Fukuoka tragedy occurred with the earthquake and the nuclear reactor, there was tsunami, and there was one fisherman actually went back and forth into the sea and survived, like some of the human beings who were kind of, and he did stayed in the sea almost for 24, 30 hours. And this, I can kind of correlate with that there was someone who was helping people and saving their life from drowning. And that's kind of 4 or 5 years back when that happened.
Wow. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to the next activity. So this is a drawing activity. This is the time to take out your paper or stylus. So Gina, if you could move to the next image. And so I'd like you to draw, take 5 minutes to draw what you see here.
Mm-hmm. 10 more seconds. And don't worry if you're not done. It's more about the experience.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the top of 5 minutes.
Okay, so just notice how you're feeling doing this. Notice if you've been present, observing. And now I'd like you to do the drawing again, but this time we're going to copy it upside down.
Wow.
Can we see the whole thing here? Oh, yes.
What do you mean? I changed the slide. Can you not see it?
Can everybody see the whole thing without it being cut off? Or is it just me? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. So another 5 minutes, I'll have the timer again. So just do as much as you can.
So again, you're copying this, looking at an upside down drawing.
Okay, 30 seconds left.
Okay, so now so I would love it if you could, post your drawings up on the Facebook screen. And so put up your hands if your so turn your upside down drawing back right side up and compare it to your first one. And put up your hands if your upside down drawing was better. So generally it's the upside down drawing comes out better because we are not labeling what we see.
It was
so when we're just like, because we are activating the part of our brain that is just experiencing the visual, and we can't really identify the lines, so we're not labeling it. When we label something, we tend to draw what the brain has recorded in its mind. That's what that thing looks like. Does that make sense? So when we're labeling things, we're not seeing. We're not seeing.
You're drawing a preconceived concept that you have in your brain. That's
yes.
Of what that thing is.
Yes. So so when you're observing, also look at the spaces in between. Look at the angles. So how was that experience for you?
It's fun.
Great. Okay, so we're shifting now from seeing and from observing and sensing into presencing. And next slide. And so also just to say that, like when we are going through transformation, when we are on our hero's journey, we can answer the call and dive in and open our mind, open our heart. But we can also become afraid and close down and then put our blame on others. And, we can see that going on in the world right now, that there are governments and leaders who have closed and who are behaving in a destructive way. And then there's another part of society that is behaving in a life-affirming way. And we have both of these forces within each of us. And so I just wanted to point that out. And then next slide, please. So who do we want to be during the pandemic? And are we going to stay in the fear zone? No, we're not. No, because everybody's here. So we want to learn and to grow. And so let's take a moment to come into presence. And next slide, please. Our greatest insights come from reflection. So I want to lead you into a short meditation just to tune in. And I'm going to ask you some questions in the meditation. And so don't worry about whether you can answer them or not. Just just allow yourself to be. And when you're finished the meditation, then I will ask you to take your paints and or your pencil and allow your hands to answer the question. So you will be answering the questions in the meditation using your hands by drawing. You're going to draw or paint the answer. And this is based on the principle that our mind isn't only in our brain, it's in our hands as well. We have wisdom in our hands. We have knowing hands. So allow that to take place. Don't worry about what your image looks like. Just allow it, allow whatever to come through. Okay? So I'm going to sound a bell. So if you can get in a comfortable position, feet flat on the ground, spine straight. I invite you to close your eyes. So take a few deep breaths. You might exhale audibly, just releasing any tension, any worries. And with each deep breath, allow yourself to relax even more, relaxing your body, sinking into your heart. Bring your awareness to your heart. You might want to put your hands on your heart, crossing your hands over your heart. And you can close your eyes or just have them at a soft gaze. And as you breathe deeply and relax, tune into yourself and sense your immediate surroundings, the weight of your body on your chair or wherever you're sitting. Just sense the room you're in, the home you're in. Sense your community, sense the field around you, the country, the world we're in. And as you tune into yourself, bring into presence your highest potential, whatever that means to you. The part of you that brings into being your highest potential. And from this place, ask, what is life asking of you? What is life asking of you during this time? This time in the community and the world, and what we're all experiencing individually and collectively. What is life asking of you? And what in your life right now is providing the seeds for the future you want to create? What is the future that is seeking to emerge through you, within you, that is seeking to emerge through you, within your family, or your community, or your country, or the world, whatever field you are called to. And as you contemplate these questions, let your imagination guide you in answering through images, Notice any images that are coming up, any sounds, sensations, words. And now when you are ready, come back into the room, into your body, into the room, and take your art material and allow your hands to guide you. Allow the wisdom of your hands to create the shapes, the images, the colors, if you're using them, to guide you in answering what is life asking of you. What is the emerging story? What is the future that is seeking to emerge through you? And take 5 minutes to create your image. Do you guys need more time?
So, hey, I'd like to share mine.
Okay, Daniel, can you show it again?
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the sort of the concept I was going for was a base of serenity. You can kind of see the blues and greens at the bottom, but then the upper 2/3 of the picture are kind of much more exciting colors. So, you know, having a basic serenity in life, but then having moments of excitement and exploration above that is kind of what I was going for.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Very good for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Anybody else is brave?
Mine started out, this is Frank. Mine started off with some gentle shapes, but words started appearing. And so I put those down too.
And then Burse, thank you, Frank. And then Bursu?
Yeah, I imagined a road going to the peak of a mountain.
Yes.
And mountain is with blossoms and trees with blossoms. Blossom, and there are flowers. There's productivity there, and there's a separation of ways. As
a
you
fork.
I didn't choose the other way, and I choose this way going to the peak, and I found my tree there. And behind the tree is my sun. Sun is there, and the productivity is there, and I choose this way because I waited, and I am now in the separation of these ways, and I am waiting for this separation, and I am deciding what to do next because it's a crisis time. Yes.
Yes.
You took the courage, right? Just like Robert Frost.
Yes. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you,
well
Bursu.
done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
And Janet.
This is the picture that came to me.
Whoa, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so in a place of powerful initiation and growth at the moment, and what came to me was an image of a golden gown with royal blue brocade on it, and just a stream of light moving in the direction that I'm moving, and a very powerful image of Isis, the true Isis, the Egyptian goddess, of many things. That's what came to me.
Oh,
wow. Thanks, Janet.
And you did that in 5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Anyone else?
I can go. Go ahead. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So what came to me was the most photographed tree in the world in Lake Wanaka in New Zealand.
Oh, right.
Where I visited last December. I think, baby, you were there as well.
Yes.
A little bit earlier. So this tree is growing in the middle of the lake, and it's been there. So the lake has sort of grown around the tree. It used to not be a lake. It used to just be land. And then as the ice glacier started melting, the lake formed, but the tree has stood the test of time, and it just keeps growing. And this tree is the most photographed in the world. And we actually have a picture of this in our room, and baby, we use the lovely gift you gave us for Pulin's birthday to frame the picture.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah. So this tree just reminds me of strength and resilience, and just the fact that life is happening around it, but it doesn't matter. It just keeps growing and shining, and living on, and has become a real symbol of strength and beauty in the midst of, just change. And so I call the word that flashed in my head was oasis.
Mm.
And yeah, I'm trying to sort of be that for my people, and just be this rock, and where people can, find solace either through touch or, through just sight or through words, like however I can communicate a sense of calm. That's what I'm aspiring to do at this time.
Beautiful.
Tree again?
It's called the most photographed tree in the world, and it's Lake Wanaka.
Such a cool story.
It's an Instagram phenomenon. Like, it's a must do in New Zealand.
Lake Wanaka, Wanaka.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So to wrap up, we've gone through this journey of observing, sensing, sharing, drawing. We've experienced the power of art. We've touched on presencing. We've gone down the U down to being in a place of presence, and hopefully everybody has had a hint of an experience of how we can shift from just downloading past experience and being in a place where we could tune in from being in a present place, tune in to what is in the field, what is emerging, using our intuition and imagination and sensing, and also being together and just sharing each other's perspectives and stories helps us to have community connection and to move forward with some hope and inspiration and confidence that we will proceed into something new and better in the future. So I just would like to share this quote by Ben Okri, who just, on the power of art. We need art more than ever. Art is a healing force, and we need to remind us we need art to remind us why life is worth living. We need art to reawaken our sense of the wonder of being, to remind us of our freedom, and to highlight the things in our cultures that enable us to withstand the dreaded visage of death. And at the heart of this is imagination. What we can imagine, we can achieve. The will can achieve. So I hope this gives you some inspiration and some soul food to bring some sense making and some meaning making during this time of the virus.